We are in the middle of this lingering crisis, seems to be never ending. We are getting all kind of confusing signals. The economy outlook remains grim, or we are witnessing the gradual opening up of the economy. Uh, the the yeah, the lockdown in different regions getting over, and in the middle of all this, the market is roaring, or market has made a remarkable recovery from its lows in March. So, to discuss all the kind of concerns that we have, the resetting of investors' expectation, what to expect from here on, what are fund managers doing, how to look at things, what to hope, what to expect, how much pain will be there. With me is Mahesh Patil from Birla Sun Life. He looks after he supervises, he has an oversight on all the equity fund management at Birla Sun Life. So, welcome, Mahesh.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Dhirendra. How are you?
Good. These are unusual times, and we are witnessing all these confusing signals. The market has made a remarkable, recovery from its lows. I would not say fully recovered, and the economy. We are still getting all the news from companies that they are still beginning to start their operations, or only way off from their capacity. All kind of things being talked about. So, what to hope for?
Yeah, so I think you're right. Things because of the lockdown, and it's been an extended period of longer than what we had anticipated. So there is a serious impact in terms of many companies and many industries. Okay, for 2 months, they've seen virtual shutdown of the operation, and that's on the supply side. But I think good thing is that on the supply side, a lot of companies and factories we were talking to, they're starting to now start operations. They're trying, and their output utilization levels are slowly coming back.
Mm-hmm.
On the demand side, though we've seen that a lot of things were closed down, a lot of users and buyers could not go out and get some of the essentials were available, but for a lot of other stuff, things were closed. So that's now opening up. So you would see slowly things coming to normalcy, and that's what we are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly, I think because of the sharp slowdown, because of income impact, right? So many companies in this lockdown are trying to cut on costs because top line growth will clearly be negative in this fiscal year. I mean, we are looking at GDP growth in this fiscal year FY21 to be anywhere between -3 to -4 to 5%. And as a result of the cost cutting exercise.
You have never seen this kind of decline in your career?
Oh, no. I mean, in India, I think even during the global financial crisis, we haven't seen the full year. I mean, it can be for a quarter or so, but full year, we haven't seen a negative decline in the GDP. So clearly, there is a serious impact in terms of the overall growth. And as a result, you will see income impact. Many companies are either cutting down on the salary cost or they are actually retrenching labor. And as a result of this, you will see the demand would continue to remain weak for some time. And I think while globally we've seen that the stimulus from the central banks, and this time around both the monetary policy, that is the central banks, and the fiscal, that is the governments, have been quick enough and work in tandem to provide a huge boost, okay, to revive the economy, because this first quarter or of this fiscal year is going to be a washout. So market is expecting that you should, because of the liquidity, lower interest rates, and also putting money at the hands of people who have been displaced or whose incomes have been displaced, will lead to, say, 2-3 quarters down the line. In India, though, I would say that while the government announced a large stimulus package, the still benefit going down to end consumer is very, very little, right? So to that extent, I think the recovery in India could probably be slightly more, take a longer term, is what our view is. Also, in India, as you know, the virus curve, we've still not peaked out, right? While we're coming in on the lockdown after more than 2.5 months, we haven't seen yet the peaking of the number of new cases. which is not the case in other countries, whether it is in Asia, Europe, or US. We've seen that curve starting to peak out. So that is a slight concern, okay, which we need to monitor over the next month or so as the lockdown is getting lifted, how the spread of the virus moves. And that would determine in terms of how soon the recovery will be. Because if at all we are able to contain that, then there is a fear that you might have another period of some kind of controls or a minor lockdown. So overall, the situation remains still a bit, it's definitely looking better than what it was earlier. And I think the government has also realized that lockdown, we can't have an extended period of lockdown, right? Because that will impact the economy, jobs, and it will be far worse than the impact of the virus itself. So I think it has to be a more pragmatic approach, okay, which the government would take. But I would say that the going forward from here, the recovery would be there. You will see month-on-month improvement, but it will be slow and gradual. And a few sectors of the economy, okay, essential goods and services, you will see things coming back fairly fast. There's a pent-up demand, okay, will come in. But other sectors like discretionary or high-end discretionary would take more time to recover from here.
What kind of earnings decline that you see? Of course, this quarter is going to be a washout, and a lot of capacity, supply, demand, and will take time to regain normalcy. But what kind of in quantitative terms, what kind of earnings decline that you see, and how long it can linger? By your own estimates, you are making investment decisions every day, so you'll have some premise of thinking. How are you approaching this?
Yes, so that's a kind of a moving target, right? So just to give a perspective here, at the beginning of this calendar year, I was looking at FY21 to be a year of recovery, right? We had last 3-4 years where the Nifty, if you look at that as the benchmark, right? The earnings growth was kind of in low single digits. And this year market, and we were also expecting the growth to be around in the 20s, around 22-23% kind of earnings growth. Now, I think after what we've seen in the March since the lockdown came in, so even the FY21 numbers were also, because last fourth quarter numbers were fairly disappointing, even though the impact was only for around 15 days, right? We've seen the FY20 growth rate itself was more or less flattish. And going forward, I think in this fiscal year, if the GDP growth is going to be negative, -3 or -4%, then the earnings growth for the Nifty companies, what we are looking at this point in time, is somewhere around -10% or so, which is a big decline. And these numbers are something which will undergo changes because we're still not sure how the recovery will pan out. Can only think here that the positive, okay, if at all one is to look at in this could be the price could come in, because we've been talking to a few companies, and what we are understanding is that since this impact has happened at the beginning of the year, many companies are now trying to recalibrate their expectations in terms of overall top line growth and trying to on their costs what they can do. Not only the discretionary costs, but even the other costs, fixed costs also. There could be a lot of cost adjustments, okay, which could happen, and that is something which, if they're able to do that, then probably the impact on the bottom line, at least for the better companies, would not be as much. But I think clearly we are losing a year of earnings. Okay, 1 year, full year is because of this crisis. Having said that, I think to answer your question, going forward, I think as we come out of this crisis, and that could probably be somewhere in the fourth quarter, is where, okay, we are looking at that we'll come back probably to the levels what we were there before the crisis, right, in terms of the broad economy, and then look at the growth in FY22.
Which is top line and bottom line of companies.
Yeah, which is the top line, yeah, and then bottom line follows from there, right? So in the fourth quarter is only where you can see probably, like for example, if you're looking at before the crisis, if the activity level was say 100, right, it would have gone down sharply, like -30% or 40% in this quarter. Slowly they inflate back and come back to the same level somewhere in the end of this fiscal year.
Okay.
So then FY22 can be, the numbers are starting to come in. Okay. So there I think you can see a sharper growth because the base impact and then the normalcy, okay, starting to play out. So FY22 numbers, still not really looked at it, but clearly the GDP growth numbers and this thing would probably slightly overshoot over there. But I think if I combine these 2 years, FY21 and 22, then probably I would say that FY22 would be more or less somewhere FY20 was, right, in terms of earnings growth. So we are looking at 1 year of one full year.
Getting on, you have to really manage the fund on a day-to-day basis, and there'll be inflows and outflows, and there isn't much of a net inflow of a large scale. But still, how have you reconfigured your portfolio, given the kind of uncertainty, given the kind of the outlook for different companies, depending on the currency, on their debt, depending on their some sectors are going to be really hurt very badly, and it might take much longer. So, what exactly if what are the principles that you have set of late in your portfolio, which is guiding you?
So I think clearly during a crisis and such kind of a big tactical shift in the market, right? It's a good time to really relook in the portfolio, do some kind of changes, relook thoroughly at a lot of stocks which have been there in the portfolio for quite some time and probably are not contributing or underperformers. Take a very hard and critical evaluation of the stocks. So we have done some kind of a cleanup of companies we think that will take longer to recover from this. Mind you, because of this crisis, there will be many companies actually which will face a severe challenge because probably the balance sheet is not that strong. Their costs are not in line. And many companies will probably not able to recover at all coming out of this. So we need to first look at these companies, take a view, and then if at all exit it out of the portfolio. So we have done some amount of portfolio consolidation over there.
So Mahesh, has this led to a substantial reduction of your investable universe?
So yeah, I mean, there are many companies, as I said, which would face challenges in this environment. Companies which have got large amount of debt, whose costs are much higher, and we are expecting a lot of consolidation to happen across industry. And to that extent, yeah, clearly the investable universe, what we're looking at, has come down. I think the tail, which was there, I think in many sectors, I think most of these companies will face challenges. And to that extent, say around 15-20% of our investable universe would have shrunk. And even in our portfolios also, we would have seen around the tail which we had would have come down considerably. And to that extent, yeah, there is been a larger consolidation is what we're looking at. And clearly the focus is more on quality, right? In this kind of a environment, you want to focus on good management, companies with good balance sheet. Even a lot of companies are trying to beef up their balance sheet, raise capital. You don't know how while you coming out, things are looking a bit better, but there is a fear that you might have a second wave, and you need to be prepared of that, right? Both in your portfolios and the companies which we are looking at. So we're looking at more companies which are much more sustainable, companies which can withstand, okay, even if there is a second wave and survive.
I've been, wanting to ask you a question that your relative underperformance of your mainstream equity fund, they didn't do, relative underperformance last year. So, there's all these changes. What have you done to really beef up their performance? And they're showing some early symptoms. And how much of it has been contributed by this crisis?
Yeah. So I think last year, yeah, there was some amount of underperformance in some of our schemes. And the reasons for that, when we look back and analyze, was that last year or last 2 years, I would say, the markets was fairly polarized, right? We've seen few large companies, index weights are doing well because still there was a fear about the how the economy will shape up. And in our portfolios, we normally look at companies slightly away from the benchmark, identify businesses which can do well over the longer term. And as you would have seen our portfolios were fairly well diversified. Had a slightly larger exposure in the mid-cap space, good companies, okay, which we thought would do well. But since the market was very polarized, the larger number of stocks in the portfolio didn't really help us, and that was one of the reasons. Secondly, we had a fairly decent exposure to the NBFC sector, right, over the last 2 years, and we saw the NBFC crisis, which broke out in 2018, but continued in 2019, and that meant that many companies really not only got impacted to the business, but also there was a serious derating in multiples over the NBFC sector. And that also hurt us. We had a very good run on the NBFCs from 2013-14 to 2018, but 18-19 was a period where we saw good underperformance over there. So what we've done is on the NBFC sector, we've clearly consolidated our holdings severely. We've got out of the smaller names or companies which had some challenges on the liability side. We've moved out of the mortgage finance companies where we saw some pressures on margins, and moved our exposure from the lending NBFCs towards more the insurance names, right, where there is no risk of NPAs or where there is no high leverage. And clearly that shift has helped us. We've seen the insurance space, both the life insurance as well as the general insurance companies have done well, and we continue to see decent growth for these companies even in this this crisis. If at all, there'll be more trend of people trying to really insure, right? Because as you know, in India, the penetration levels there are fairly low. Also, as I mentioned earlier, we've done a consolidation of portfolio, try to make a portfolio much more tighter. Our top 10 holdings across our funds, the concentration would have gone up. That should clearly help to get.
You become more selective with your portfolio.
Yeah, we become more selective, and overall, I would say we have increased the quality of a portfolio also.
Okay.
And trying to focus. One thing clearly we realized in the last 2 years is that management quality has played a very important role, and companies where there have been corporate governance issues or where their promoter leverage has been higher, promoters have pledged their shares, these companies have gone for a derating. So we've tried to stay away from such companies and consolidate our holding in the better quality management. So overall, I think our portfolio quality would have also increased, and that's helping us, especially during the crisis.
A lot of investors, came into mutual fund. They started SIP, and mutual fund Sahi Hai campaign also did strike a chord. So many investors, who started 6 months, 1 year ago, that's fine. But many investors, who have been around for a couple of years, 4 or 5 years, their SIP is in red in terms of, and that is quite disappointing for them. And they might have, next 2 years, 3 years, 4 years time frame, they might have their goal maturing. They have been investing with a purpose. So what should those investors expect? Because, it is entirely a function of what do you expect for your funds, your mainstream diversified funds, to generate in the next 3-4 years. Leave aside, next 6 months, 1 year, 1.5 years. It'll all be turmoil, hard to guess. But generally 3-4 years time frame, what should be one's expectation?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, we were actually, as I mentioned earlier, looking forward that this year would be a better year. Okay, we were coming out of a slow period of economic growth, and a lot of the sectors which were depressed, like the banking sector, the financial services sector, the telecom sector, were looking to improve and going to drive really the market and the earnings growth in this fiscal year. But because of this unfortunate event of the COVID crisis, as I said, we are actually seeing some kind of a setback. And I would say this is not a permanent damage, okay, which is likely to happen to the medium-term or long-term growth, okay, what we are looking for the economy and also for the company. I mentioned earlier, we've clearly lost 1 full year. But I think coming out of this crisis, as I mentioned, there are a couple of things, okay, which can be positive. Clearly, globally, we've seen that there's been a huge amount of liquidity. Central banks have become very, very dovish, low interest rates. So once things start to normalize, I think the low interest rates would provide a stimulus to the economy. So that should be the thing. A lot of companies during the crisis have realized that there are a lot of costs which were there unnecessary, and during a normal time you take it for granted. So there is a lot of work looking into trying to cut down their costs, improve productivity, right?
Efficiency and productivity will actually be the positive of this.
Yeah. I think once you come back to the same utilization levels and go up, I think that benefit will start to flow in. So that is something which can play out over the medium to longer term.
Okay.
And I think if the growth, I think after 1 year of normalization, or you could see the recovery in FY22 can be fairly sharper.
Very sharper. Okay.
Yeah. And I think the market, post the correction, are also looking fairly reasonable now, right? Year back, there was a talk that markets are looking a bit expensive.
Oh, you think market is fairly priced now?
Yeah, I think the market is fairly priced now. I mean, there are various ways to look at it. I mean, you can look at it on a price to earnings multiple. It might not look cheap, right, on a trailing PE multiple. But other parameters like the price to book value multiple or the earnings yield to bond yield ratio, if you look at it, they are like 10% lower than the long-term average. So clearly there is a mean reversion, okay, of that which could happen. So if you take answer your question, if I take a 3-year view from here, I think investors, what we're looking at is that the depressed earnings, what we've seen for the last 3-4 years, once we come out of the crisis, I think there could be definitely a reflation period over there. And some of the better companies would be able to consolidate their position in the market, taken advantage of the situation, done their cost reduction. So you might see some operating leverage start to kick in better in FY22 onwards. And because of the easy liquidity, interest rates probably would remain low, and that would also help to drive a demand over the medium term. So I think investors need to be slightly more patient, I would say. Forget this year, and I think over a 3-year time frame, I think the market should not only come back to the long-term growth rate, but probably also do some catch-up, okay, of the underperformance what we're seeing in the last 3 months.
Okay, one thing which actually, it was the only bright spot for investors was their international diversification. They have been able to withstand the whole carnage that we saw. How much of an opportunity do you see there, and what should be an investor's allocation? And are you doing something about this opportunity in your domestic funds too?
So it's been interesting, right? We've always talked about that the emerging markets, India is a growth market, and the returns there should be fairly good than the developed markets. But what we see is that just like there are cycles in asset classes, we've seen cycles in the developed markets and emerging markets, right? So last decade was a year where we saw the developed market, and especially the US, do much better than the emerging markets, and also vis-a-vis India. I mean, US would have outperformed in the last decade by around 53% higher, right, which is a decent outperformance. Prior to that, from 2002 to 2008-9, we had seen that the emerging markets were hugely outperforming developed markets, right? And also they're similar. I think so what it tells us is that, again, as a part of your diversification strategy, even within equities, one should definitely look at the developed markets, right, as a part of diversification. And that helps you to either reduce your volatility over the medium to longer term. Over a shorter term, I think the markets are fairly correlated, right? India, if you look at every day or every week, how India does, and there's a strong correlation between India and the, say, the US market. But over medium to long term, we've seen that there can be divergence because of various factors, right? The dynamics which drive the emerging markets and the developed markets are totally different. And also, we've seen that if you want to participate in some of the next generation companies, right, the digital companies, right?
Yeah, a good part of, kind of technology companies and
technology companies
have access to.
Yes, a lot of disruptors, okay, disruptive technologies, okay, which are there globally. Those companies are not available for investors to invest into the Indian market, and at least not in the public domain. They remain in the private domain. But you can participate in those names in some of the developed markets. So that also provides an opportunity to really participate in that segment of the growth also, which is looking fairly exciting. So that I clearly urge that investors who already have a decent exposure in the domestic markets, they can look at investing into developed markets as a diversification, and also into areas, some of these technology, digital, the disruptive technology companies, which we're not able to participate over here. And typically, I would say for a normal investor, say around 15% of the portfolio can
15% of their portfolio. Okay.
And somebody is looking to really save some money for some expenses, okay, which could have in foreign exchange, okay, for say a child's education or overseas. Then probably they can do a kind of a targeted allocation, right, so that they have a certain corpus, okay, which can be ready, because that will be a hedge against the rupee depreciation, which we don't know how it will behave, right?
Many of the Indian funds, they are also allowed to invest abroad. Do you have any such plans?
Yeah, in fact, that's a very interesting question, and we are actually seriously evaluating that. So, what happened? I mean, just to give a perspective here, we used to have we manage international fund, right, for the last years. We launched that in 2008-9, and we continuously look at companies over there. But one of our funds, like a dividend yield fund, in India dividend yield is fairly low, so we were not finding much opportunities here to invest into high dividend companies. Most of the companies were very expensive, high dividend companies. But in US, there are a lot of companies we found which were offering good dividend yield, and also which were reasonably priced. So we started looking at those names purely from a dividend yield fund. But I think now increasingly we're finding that even for our larger funds, like even a large cap fund or diversified fund, they merit to look at some of the large companies in the developed markets, especially in the US. In areas in technology fund, right, where these are large established companies, they're growing well, they are market leaders, and they can provide some amount of opportunity for us to capture that growth. So actually doing some work, and you could see actually some of one or two names, large international names, being a part of our normal domestic diversified
general mainstream equity funds.
Yeah, so we are trying to build capabilities over there. We have one person in the team who is exclusively looking at these opportunities.
That's all that I have. My question for you. Anxious investors are, plenty of questions still pouring in, and I'll start now with their questions. Devesh Nigam is asking very specifically that in spite of the lockdown and a fall in economic activity, why are we witnessing days when stock market goes up? Why is it not reflecting the true picture? So he's complaining about the markets are going up.
Yeah, it's been a bit surprising. I mean, tell me, who would have thought that the US market, right, will be positive year till date, right, from December? If somebody had told you around 6 months back, right, this is going to happen, you will see this kind of a big pandemic, okay, which will engulf the whole world. You will see GDP cuts, right, to the extent of globally, right, -3, -4%.
Yes, a shrinking economy globally.
Right, and you wouldn't have thought that, right? But then what has happened is that the markets are a bit funny, right, in the way that they tend to look at I mean, they react also very fast, but they tend to get carried away by fundamentally also a liquidity. And also, right, market also lives on hope, right? What is going to happen, say, a year down the line. So because of this swift policy response, what we saw from a lot of these central banks globally, and this time around the fiscal stimulus package, if you look at Europe, Japan, is nowhere compared to it's much, much higher, right? It's like 50% of the
unthinkable scale of liquidity.
Yeah. So that whole liquidity has tried to, and rates were cut down to zero. And that's what has given a rise in the reflation rate, what we see. Also, what has happened is that a lot of retail investors, we've seen this rally, what we've seen in US and other developed markets. It's been driven by increased level of retail participation, which is a bit surprising, right? You would have thought that retail investors would have been scared in this sharp correction, but it's the other way around. Retail investors have actually been more active, probably because sitting at home, right? They've seen that this is probably be a good pastime, and also because they have been globally, at least, we've seen not such a big income impact because the governments there have actually compensated for the loss of income, right? Rates have gone very low. So there is no where you can park your money, right? There's no.
So you attribute it primarily to the liquidity.
Yeah, it's primarily liquidity and also some they hope that you might find cure for the virus. There were some talks about there were few drugs which showed some symptoms. So we see the market reflect back. But I think you will see volatility in the markets. The market will come back to reality as the earnings season come in the first quarter this fiscal year. So you would see some correction in the market. So you will see the ups and downs in the market coming in. I think at the current level where the market went up, we were at the higher end of the band, right? From perspective is what one would try to figure out.
Here's another question. Ankit is asking that how is the ongoing pandemic likely to impact mid and small sized companies? What should be the strategy of mid and small cap fund industry? What are you doing in your mid and small cap funds too? That's a part.
Sure. So the interesting question. I think clearly the mid and some of the small cap, smaller companies would face challenges generally. I mean, in any industry, the larger and the bigger players with strong balance sheets would do much better. Having said that, there are a lot of good companies there in the mid and small cap space, which are doing better and are well positioned, in their segment. They will continue to do well. The mid and small cap sector, if you look at it from Jan 2018, has seen a big underperformance, right? And after the crisis, we've seen a further underperformance. So relatively, if you look at the performance of the mid caps vis-a-vis the Nifty, it's reached to a level which is at a decadal low, right? So clearly the mid and small caps offer great value and they're looking fairly attractive, from a valuations perspective. And I would guess that relatively going forward, if I take a 3-year view, the mid and small cap space, as things start to normally have a better chance of doing better because the underperformance what we've seen will start to mean revert. Having said that, the chances of going wrong in the mid and small cap space for many companies which might not survive is also very high, right? So the risk is also much higher, especially during this crisis. So it's better to really participate somebody in that through a mutual fund rather than going directly. And if mid cap fund, a couple of things what we are doing in this current environment is that we've seen even the good companies have corrected significantly. So we are using the opportunity to buy into some of these good quality mid caps where stability and the companies definitely will survive and also come back stronger after the crisis. We have that kind of we are getting out some of the cyclicals and living a secular growth stock because these stocks were very expensive. But the correction, because of the near-term impact, we are able to buy some of these good quality secular growth companies. We're trying to move more towards that. And also trying to, as I mentioned earlier, consolidate the portfolio, right? There are a lot of stocks which we found we probably will not find difficulties and not survive. We've exited the stocks in this crisis. But I would say that we are, as a fund house, now agnostic towards market capitalization. We're looking more specific, and that's the approach. There is good value in the mid and small cap. You should not ignore that sector. And those are opportunities companies face which will give multi-baggers, right, over the next 2 to 3 years. You should not miss those.
Quality mid and small cap stock is your orientation irrespective of sector.
Yes, that's right.
Disney Lewis is asking is a very specific question on sector that, auto and realty has been badly affected due to pandemic. Would you suggesting booking losses, particularly in such sectors?
No, I would not say again. I mean, whether
also quality matters.
Again, any sector we're not seeing either big negative, right? There are good companies in the sectors, and there are challenges. Like for example, the auto sector has been going through a downturn, not only after this crisis, but even for the last 1.5 years, right? Again, that's a sector which could probably come back to normalcy because there is a trend towards now personal mobility, right? Shared mobility, personal mobility, and that's a big behavioral change you could see. And the sector has been underperforming for the last 2 years now. And you could see things starting to now come back. Within that also, companies could, the better companies over there, stronger balance sheet, they can be able to capture a larger market share. So we see opportunities in the auto sector. In fact, we have been underweight auto sector now for the last 1 year, but we are actually looking to add or increase our exposure in this space because we think some of these companies will be able to come back much stronger after this crisis. Okay. The real estate sector also is going through a consolidation, right? In the real estate sector, we see the smaller players getting wiped out because of liquidity. They're not getting funding from the NBFC space. So the large established players will be able to consolidate, gain market share. They have liquidity. And once the market starts to recover, sales starts to pick up. And mind you, the interest rates are coming down, right? Mortgage rates now have come down to around 7% or so. And as some of the new projects come at a price point which is much affordable, opportunity in the real estate sector also. So I think I would not say that any sector. I think you have to be more, again, coming back, company specific, stock specific. There are opportunities there across sectors.
Okay. Here is Vivi Anand asking a question which actually has a very severe implication to your to fund management. In the current scenario, will it be better to opt for index fund instead of actively managed fund?
So, I mean, this is a fair question. I think again, 1 year or last 2 years, last calendar year, if you look at it, the actively managed funds were, a lot of the funds were unable to beat the benchmark, right?
Yeah.
Precisely because of the reason which I mentioned earlier, right? There was a polarization in the market. Few stocks did well because there was a risk aversion, and we saw that play out. Again, these are cycles what we see in the market, right? Where after the market goes down, it becomes fairly narrow rally, but those things change, and we were actually witnessing a change, right? The breadth of the market was starting in the month of Jan and Feb, and that was clearly giving an opportunity for the actively managed funds, which are normally more diversified, right? They would be having bets around 40-50% outside the benchmark, which would help them to really outperform. So that was starting to deliver. The crisis, we saw again some kind of narrowness in the market, but I think the underperformance of the broader market has been so large now for the last 2 years that we are not seeing even in this fall. Now recently, we are not seeing some of these stocks going down, and the breadth of the market has started to again improve. So if that happens, then clearly the actively managed funds will, I think, no doubt, outperform the benchmark. Although I would say that the outperformance from the benchmark would come down compared to what we see historically, right? Because the market is becoming much more mature, then funds are becoming much larger. There's a lot of money coming into ETFs, also, which drive some of the large index stocks. But I would say that if we take a longer term view, and if somebody is investing with us in 3 to 5 year views, actively managed funds, better funds will still continue.
They still hold promise. Okay.
But it will be much lower. If you are looking to take a short term position in the market, then I think you should look at index funds or ETFs, because just to play the market, pay beta. If you want to play the beta in the market, then I think you should do that to the index and
buying the market with convenience.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Here is the question. Dinesh Bhardwaj is asking that since the value of investments have fallen dramatically, would this be a right time to rebalance the portfolio between equity and debt and to shift our investment between different mutual fund schemes? Yes, it's always a good way to, good time to rebalance if your asset allocation has gone wacky. But this particular part of the question, I would like you to answer that, what should an investor, if he has various kind of fund, what kind of specific fund should one emphasize in one's portfolio right now with a 2-3 years time frame in mind?
Yeah, so I think asset allocation, clearly to rebalance. I would say that the allocation to equity at this point in time, I think our model suggests, if you look at all the valuation parameters, to be slightly higher tilt towards equity compared to your average allocation, right? What you would have in that's just to clear that. To answer your second part of the question, within equities, then where do you put your money? Which kind of fund? So I would say larger allocation should be towards a multi-cap fund. Because that's where we see, as we're now getting.
That is where one should be. Okay.
Yeah, more agnostic toward large cap, mid cap, multi cap. I think is more stock specific.
And they can change track as and when.
Yes.
And then Roy is asking that I have a lump sum of rupees 15 lakh.
Yeah.
Is it right time to invest in equity with a 5 to 7 years time frame? I would like to answer indirectly that yes, it's always a good time to be investing your long-term money, and 5 to 7 years will qualify there. And my only suggestion is that 15 lakh rupees, don't invest at one go. Spread it over the next 12 months. Amit Sharma is asking that, is it advisable to start SIP during these times? And if yes, what should be the mix of investment between equity and debt?
Yeah, so I would say starting an SIP anytime is the right time, right? And in fact, even at the peak of the markets, if you see in 2008, we have some data, right? People have started the SIP at the peak of the market, and then there was a sharp correction in the market. Over that period of time, people have still made decent returns, not a very large return, but around 7-8% return, which is not that bad. So it's always right time to start an SIP, I would say. Only thing is that when the markets are really attractive, right? From a valuation perspective, it probably takes, if one should slightly more aggressive, right? And increasing the allocation of probably the ticket size of the SIP could be slightly much more larger. But I think clearly this is a market at these levels for long-term investment, even for lump sum investment, while you don't want to do it at one go, you would spread out whether it is 3 months, 6 months, or a 1 year time frame, we can do that. But I think SIP is something we should continue to do. And in fact, a lot of investors are asking me whether I should stop at SIP now, right? Because as I said earlier, the last 3 year returns are not looking that great. So people are starting to worry.
We witnessed a decline in the scale of SIP it flows in the market, as per AMC.
Yeah. And one should not forget that people are forgetting about returns. Again, I think returns are all relative, right? So while the equity returns might not look that great over this thing, but if you look at the options, right, interest rates have come down now. The FD rates, right, used to be like 7%.
Fixed deposit rates coming down
6 months back, and now at 5%.
Yeah.
Right. So I think relatively, I think even equities give you slightly lower return than what they have done historically. They still make a good asset class.
Now, here is a final question, and it is an all-important question. Jay Kokate is asking that I have been investing regularly in SIPs through my retirement since 2008. I've been regularly investing through SIP for my retirement since 2008. I'm likely to retire after 10 years. Would it be right to increase my SIP contributions right now? Yes, it will absolutely be right to increase your SIP contributions right now. But I would like to ask Mahesh, you, that what to expect for all the accumulation of the 20 years, 10 years from now and the 10 years that have been done. So if somebody has done his SIP over the last 10 years, so he will be in green. He will, despite the losses, despite the lock-in, despite the decline in value, he will be still in profit. But 10 years from now, what is your big bet in terms of return expectations?
If you look at all asset class returns over the longer term, when I say longer term, means if you take a 10-year period, right, or 15-year period, they tend to mean revert to the long-term average. Long-term averages could also undergo a slight change depending on how the underlying economy or
the interest rate outlook.
Yeah, interest rates. So if you look at long-term return for equity is around 12.5% or so, right? If you take an average return. And that is in line with the nominal GDP growth, what we've seen. Slightly a percentage points higher than that. Now, going forward, I think the nominal GDP growth will be slightly lower than what we have seen in the last 15 years or so, because we don't see inflation levels going to around whatever 6% average, probably 2% lower than what we have seen. GDP growth probably in real terms could be a tad lower, than what we've seen in the last 15 years. So having said that, I think you should expect the long-term returns for equities could be around, say, 200 basis points in the next decade. Again, I'm saying very long-term returns, right? The returns will be much higher because you're coming in from a lower base. But you could probably be 200 basis points lower. Last long-term returns were around 13% return. Could be around 11% return is what I think one should expect, which is still a good return, because if inflation is going to be around 4-5% in that range, that's a good premium over that to take care of the risk and which equities offer. I think that's the level I think which one should be working around, I think, for real long-term investors.
So lower risk expectation and hope for the best. Thank you very much, Mahesh, for sharing your insights and sharing all the inside information in terms of all that you're doing and answering our viewers' question. Thank you all for being here with us, and keep coming back. We'll answer all the questions that you keep posting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a pleasure talking.